He laughed so hard you'd think I told him I could sprout wings and fly across the ballroom. And that laugh, sharp and echoing against the Hyatt Regency chandeliers in Dallas, is what made every head turn my way. Forks paused halfway to plates, champagne glasses hovering, and there I was, Nia Caldwell, standing by the service doors in a plain navy dress, flats, and that beat-up notebook I always carried, looking more like hotel staff who'd wandered in by mistake than someone meant to be tested. In front of hundreds of strangers, yes, I said, steady, though my pen dug so hard into the margin I left a dent. 9. And Richard Holstrom, Millionaire, keynote darling. The man whose name was plastered all over the banner smirked with that brand of arrogance that isn't funny but still manages to drag a chuckle out of the people orbiting him. Nobody just picks up 9, he said, shaking his head like I'd confessed to shape-shifting. And I could see in the glances shared around him that to these people this was entertainment, a spectacle. Some young woman with no sequins and no pedigree claiming brilliance test me. I told him, quiet but sure, and he leaned in as if I'd set up a circus trick, starting in French without missing a beat, and I matched him so smoothly that a couple of native speakers actually turned their heads, then Mandarin, Russian, Arabic, each language tossed like a dart meant to make me flinch, but each one I caught and returned, crisp and exact, and somewhere between Russian and Arabic the laughter thinned into silence, his smirk shrinking as the room realized I wasn't bluffing, and while they only saw a spectacle unfolding in the chandelier light, what they didn't know was that behind every phrase I spoke were years of nights at a kitchen table in Phoenix, headphones too tight on my ears, scribbling strange sounds onto scraps of paper while the desert heat bled through thin windows, my mom working double shifts at St. Joseph's, my dad long gone, no siblings, no safety net, just me teaching myself Spanish because it was everywhere around me, then French, then German, then Mandarin, piling notebooks so high my mom worried they'd topple, asking me once if I didn't get tired, and me telling her every new word just made the world feel bigger. I carried those words into community college, trading tutoring sessions for borrowed textbooks, translating in courtrooms where lawyers doubted me out loud, in hospital corridors where I caught the right words for fear and pain, in weddings where I moved vows across languages like passing light through stained glass, and every time someone asked if I was sure, if I really knew what I was doing, that sting burned deeper than the exhaustion ever did. So when I saw the opening for this Dallas event, international investors, business leaders, someone needed to bridge the conversations, I took it. Even if I showed up in a dress I'd saved months for and a notebook so worn the spine bent back in that ballroom. When Richard pushed harder, the crowd leaned in, and he decided to raise the stakes, motioning to the floor like a ringmaster. Speak to her. Test her, and they did. Portuguese first, then Hindi, then a sarcastic Russian comment meant to trip me, and I sent them all back just as fast, weaving words like threads across the marble floor until people started clapping, phones came out, and suddenly I wasn't background staff anymore. I was the main act, and Richard, the man who'd laughed, stood stiff, his pride bleeding out through a too-tight smile. He caught me later by the side doors, his voice low and sharp. You enjoyed making me look like a fool, and I told him flat. I didn't make you look like anything. I just answered. But he kept pressing, rattling off his resume, his companies, his power. People don't care about translators, he sneered. They care about leaders, people like me. And I let him finish before I asked. And what good is building if nobody understands you? Which hit him harder than I expected, his jaw tightening, no comeback ready. Because for once someone had said it plain see. What he never understood was that language isn't a trick. It's not flashcards, it's mothers trying to read discharge notes, refugees standing before a judge, two people at a wedding who want to promise forever without fumbling. It's the difference between being heard and being dismissed, and for years I'd been dismissed, overlooked, asked to prove myself twice as much for half the credit, and standing there in that ballroom, I realized this was no different, just bigger chandeliers. And here's the twist most people don't know. Later that night, after the applause, after the murmurs of respect, Richard found me again in the lobby. And his tone had shifted, the arrogance cracked just enough for something else to leak through. You surprised me, he said, almost like it pained him to admit. And he even offered me a role, a chance to work with his companies overseas, to connect where his consultants had failed. And yeah, Part of me wanted to laugh at the irony. The same man who mocked me now extending a hand. But I told him straight. I won't be a trophy hire. If I work with you, it's because you value what I bring, and for. Once he didn't push back, he just nodded when I stepped out into the Dallas night. The air cool and sharp against my skin. I thought about all the late nights at the kitchen table, every scribbled note, every borrowed book, every doubt I had to wade through. And it felt like all of it had led to this one moment, not the applause, not even Richard's half apology, but the shift in the room. The way people saw me not as a curiosity or a staffer, but as someone they had to take seriously. Someone who proved brilliance doesn't wear a price tag, so maybe the real question isn't about me or Richard. Maybe it's about all of us. How many people have we dismissed because they didn't look the part? How many voices have we laughed at before we listened? And what does it say about us when it takes a public spectacle to recognize value that's been there all along? You tell me. Was I out of line for putting him in his place? Did he deserve the embarrassment, or did I grandstand more than I should have? And if you were in my shoes, would you take the offer from the man who tried to turn you into a punchline? Or would you walk away and make him wait until he learns to ask in the only language that really matters? Respect. Drop your thoughts below. I want to know if you'd have done it differently, because this isn't just my story. It's a mirror, and I'm curious what you see when you look into it.